Welcome to Soil and Soul, a new Christian podcast for those who want to invest in yields that count most. 5 days a week during planting and harvest seasons, Soil and Soul looks to help you sow seeds and reap a golden harvest. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Soil and Soul. I'm Aaron Lorch, and I have Caleb Corney with me. How are you doing today, Caleb?
I'm doing well. How are you, Aaron?
Great. And so for the listener, we are pre-recording this, but we are recording this for an episode of Wednesday World Concerns. Sometimes, some weeks, we will have a guest on who is sharing their kind of like testament, and it'll be a Wednesday witness. But today, we thought we would go with a Wednesday World Concern, because there's definitely something that's been on a lot of people's minds lately in the United States and maybe the whole world is this Iranian war. And we're not going to try to get political or anything like that on this show, but I think it's really important to talk about how something like this far abroad can actually really affect us over here, even though we may not know anybody over there directly, unless you know somebody that's gone overseas, traveled, goes and lives over there now, or someone in the armed forces, etc. But we as farmers, and also as we as Catholics, really have a calling to keep others in our hearts and our minds, even people way over there.
Yeah, there's certainly, like, even if you don't know anyone personally over there, I think it's still, our duty as Catholics to just to lift those people up in prayer and to pray for peace and pray for safety for all those involved, for sure.
Yeah, I think, and it's stressful though. And like people on the farming side of things, I feel like we've gotten a large brunt of these global politics over the last number of years. Whether it's something with China or whether it's with Iran. I mean, like our commodity prices have definitely been affected by that. You have crude oil going through the roof, which then ultimately affects the other energies. We have, if you didn't book your urea or other nitrogen, I guess I should say, for this spring. I mean, man, does not look pretty. Like if you did not prepay it and book it way earlier, like what I'm glad we did, I guess. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, and it was plenty high. It was higher than last year. So we were complaining to the co-op anyway. In fact, we were debating not actually buying it because we're like, maybe it'll go down, even though it hasn't yet. And we're glad we did, because look at what happened. It just shot through like a moon rocket. All these input prices going up, and then you have corn has gone up quite a bit because of the energy market, but it's so volatile. I mean, it has crashed back down, and it chops around, and all it's going to take is one little tweet or some other news thing, and then it can go back the other way. And it's just you just don't know what to do. It's easy to lose sleep over this kind of stuff, and not only does it affect our output of prices, but also the input. So it's both ends, and you feel like you're maybe like squeezed both ways. It's easy for us to just be like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, absolutely. I didn't book my spring urea needs, and I'm looking out the window right now. I can see the co-op has a spreader out in my wheat. I'm putting some fertilizer on the wheat right now, and so yeah, I'm paying for that high price urea, because that, it's not just oil that is, traveling through the Strait of Hormuz or out of some of the Middle Eastern countries. Like there's a lot of fertilizer production, Morocco and several other countries right in that area that has to traverse that same path. And yeah, it's all affected. There's a lot of trickle down effects that, we're seeing directly as farmers. And yeah,
and like, I don't know, what's your perspective on this? It's almost easy just to like want to wish that it didn't happen, like that the war is not happening. And I feel like, most people are anti-war anyway, but then you also have to remember, like, why is it happening? And there's two sides to it. And again, we're not going to go into to everything like on the politics side of things, but just the idea of whenever there's any sort of conflict abroad, not even necessarily this one, that can then affect us. I mean, I'm just even thinking, and this isn't even a war, but like if you have China is having a drought, then all of a sudden that might even affect our markets because people think that we might have a shortage or there might be a world shortage, especially if it's wheat, it feeds the world. And you probably
Right.
watch that more than I do. Or like on the hog side of thing, like I watch the livestock market a little bit, that some of those global things can affect it. And so it's easy for a farmer to almost think like, man, like I can actually reap a benefit from their suffering. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
it sounds bad, but like I, I know there's been those thoughts that have popped in people's heads before because I've heard it before. It's like, well, yeah, I'm just glad it's not here, and this war has been good for something like. And honestly,
Right.
I feel like from my perspective, I'd rather everything be even keel and more peace around. And that's just even from a market standpoint and how it affects us. Not even like on a level of like obvious objectivity or like morality, and from our faith side just to keep the peace. There's all that too.
It's certainly, these world events, have far-reaching consequences. Whether it's like you said, the markets, and again, not only what we're receiving for the goods that we sell, but the prices that we have to pay for different input prices. But yeah, and I always struggle with that too. It's like, in order to have better prices, there has to be, like a shortage, a supply issue.
That's come from
You
somewhere,
never
right?
want that to happen. Yeah, it's gotta, yeah, you always want, it always wants to be, like someone else's supply issue, not yours. You always want to produce as much as you can.
Yep.
But yeah, it's tough. It'd be great if we could just continue to drive, new demand in order to increase prices and not have to worry about someone having to deal with a supply issue.
Yeah, it's like the classic where everyone says, well, the only way to solve the corn market being down in the dumps for years on end because we oversupply and overproduce is, oh, well, that means we need to start planting something else. And I mean, you're planting some wheat, but I mean, like even outside of
Yeah,
that, so like we need to plant like hemp or we need to plant this or that. And the classic answer is like, okay, you do it. You do it.
yeah,
You
yeah,
plant that. I don't want to though. I want to keep planting what I like to plant, and then I'm going to watch the market be affected, and then I'm going to reap the reward on that. You go ahead and change that. It's like it's always why don't you do that? And I think that kind of is a good segue to taking it from a more spiritual and a faith-based reflection. I think now because I mean you just think of in scripture even where it's like well the question of is well who's going to take care of this, who's going to feed the hungry and clothe the poor, and who's going to take care of these issues. Well, God is asking us to do that. Christ is actually calling
yeah,
us to
exactly.
rise up and do it ourselves, like with his help, obviously, but not just like lay back and watch him do all the work or like watch my fellow man. I'm just going to expect Caleb to do all the good philanthropy and good works and all these good things, and I'm going to give you a clap, but then I don't have to do any of that. I'll feel good because of what you're doing. No, that's not how it's supposed to work. We're all called to rise up as the lay faithful.
Yeah, that's a great point. You always hear that from farmers where they say, we could solve these low prices if everybody would just set aside 10% of their acres and not plant it one year, and then you create your own supply issue. Yeah, everyone wants everyone else to set aside the 10%, and then I'm going to plant my 100% of my acres so I can take advantage of these higher prices. That's why it would never work out. But yeah, like you said, it's God is calling all of us to participate, to be active problem solvers, and not just looking for not necessarily the easy way out, but just we need to put ourselves out there. We can all see local issues within our community, and we're always looking for, well, who's going to step up and fix this. And a lot of times, just we ourselves stepping up can make a big difference just by showing up. And
Yes,
um,
yes.
I don't know if there's anything that you know tied to the war in Iran, if there's what we can do locally necessarily, other than like we said earlier, like certainly pray. pray for all those involved and pray for peace. But um, yeah,
Well, that's where like I get a little bit rubbed wrong when you hear some people say, and they're typically not Christians saying this, but they're like they can kind of criticize people or us for after there's a natural disaster or some sort of terrible happening, even like a murder or something awful, where we say or somebody that have an ailment, and especially if it's in a public sphere, everyone knows about it, where everyone's like commenting like thoughts and prayers. Well, that's better
yeah,
than nothing, you know. And yes, I can understand where there's a frustration that yeah, you're not solving anything like directly, and you're not. It doesn't seem like you. It can come across to some people as you're just kind of being passe and you're not doing enough. Well, sometimes we can't do any more than that, and it's just more of that acknowledgement of that. I mean, I think is the first step. Like, I mean, honestly, on a deeper level, think about it. Like, one of the first steps in really growing in our faith and in relationship with Christ is realizing and having that acknowledgement that we are just human and we can't do much. We only have so much
right.
control, and we can't do much, especially without him. You know, and so we need to just give it up, and that's it's hard to give up that control. And like I have a little post-it note above my in my on my office wall that I wrote at one point years ago, and it's like to-do list, you know, for the day, and it's like step one,
Yeah.
die to Christ. Step two is just blank because that's all that's you just start there and everything falls in line. Doesn't mean that I'm good at it. Doesn't mean that I'm an expert at it by any means, but it's a great goal for each day, right? And you gotta because our human nature is to fight that, right? And some of the saints have
Oh
been
yeah.
really good in the past, have been really good at that, a lot better than I am, but it's something we can keep striving for, you know? I mean, every day is a new chance to strive for that, to die to self and to give it to him, because I mean it's going to make your life a lot easier. And that's a little bit of a tangent, but I think it does tie in with what we're talking about, because people say like, well, what can I do? I just feel this desperation even for others, like what's going across the other side of the world, and I can't do anything. Well, let's acknowledge that we can't actually do anything unless you know in your heart that you can. I mean, there's prayer for that. There's discernment. Some people, whether it's certain financial means or they're literally over there or they have certain people connections, you know. But like you and I, let's say, we can't do much directly. Can we pray for them intently? Yeah, we can. Can we also do the small things in our home and even what we're doing right now, whereas sort of just giving a good presence to what's going on and being affirmative in a various regards, like when someone is talking to you in your local community and they're bad mouthing or bashing something or just being um ill informed. I mean, it's not to cut them down, but if you can um, be an apologist of a sense of to or what our Catholic faith and what we believe in, and that there is a higher calling to have those people in mind and not just be like, yeah, we're just gonna nuke them all over there. You know what I mean? Like they're people.
Yeah.
They're people. All those people. Everyone is
Right.
even if there are enemies, they're people, and you have to respect their personhood. And there's always um, and that's what we're called to as Catholics, and so that's part of being an apologist too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's yeah, you can it's pretty easy to get into, it's like an us versus them mentality, but yeah, you got to understand like every one of these people involved, like they all have souls. They were all created, by God and in God's love for all humanity. So yeah, it's really really important to keep that in mind and just take that to heart and take that to prayer.
Yeah. I mean, if you really struggle in praying for your enemy, well, pray for their soul, you know? That maybe makes it
Yeah,
because you know we all have those. We know that we are uniform in that way. You want what's best for them. And again, choosing loving your enemies is just willing the good of them. And we shouldn't just give up on people, even our enemies.
yeah, we certainly all have human shortcomings, but our souls, like that's the part of us that was created in God's image and likeness, and that's certainly something that we we all can agree that it's that everyone has a soul, and it's worth praying for. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay. That's a kind of a good way to kind of put a bow on it, I think. Do you have any other thoughts, Caleb, on how it kind of pertains maybe specifically to our direct world concern that we're talking about with the Iranian war and those people, I guess?
um I guess, yeah, just to wrap it up, I would say, just continue to pray. Um, for anyone who's wondering like what they can do, I would say continue to pray, ask God, like what if he has anything in mind, and just open your heart to see if there's anything where, that he's leading you to do some other action, if there's anything else that he's asking other than prayer. But yeah, I don't know, exactly what that might look like at this time. But open your heart and your prayer life to be willing to consider what God may be leading you to.
Yeah. Wow. Really well said, Caleb. I think we'll just kind of end with that. So, for all of you still listening, thank you so much. And please stay tuned for the rest of our week and the season ahead of Soil and Soul. God bless everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Soil and Soul, and we hope that it blesses you. Please stay tuned during the week for the other daily shows that we offer as part of this special ministry project we're providing during the peak seasons of planting and harvest. Also, if you'd like to find out more about Catholic Passage, how you might collaborate with us, or even support our mission, please visit us at CatholicPassage.com. Most importantly, you can support us with your prayers. We'll be praying for you. Please pray for us.